setting the standards with the most extensive coverage in racing. The Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. In all the world of racing, this may come as close to a state park. As a matter of fact, the bliss is so sweet, it's almost unkind to break it with the roar of racing engines, but not quite. The weather here this weekend has just been gorgeous. It's dropped below 50 degrees at night. It's risen up to the 70s. Matter of fact, it's 71 today for just perfect racing conditions. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Larry Nuber, and very happy to be here at the beautiful Mid-Ohio Sports Car Complex. And joining me in the booth today, while Bob Jenkins is down in South Carolina, where I understand they've been having some problems with the weather we are not having here, is Pancho Carter. Pancho, the Andretti's, they have it locked up?
I don't know if they have it locked up. There's still a lot of other drivers that are vying for that point championship, but right now they are the top dogs, you might say. They're the ones that contend with for the point championship.
Well, the Andretti's and at least one Unser Al Jr. up there again, but how about some of the other drivers that we haven't mentioned yet on this broadcast?
Well, I think for this race alone, you've got to take in fact Emo. I think Emerson Fittipaldi is a good chance to win here today. The Pat Patrick team has run strong, and I feel that he's led a lot of the road races too, but don't discount either one of the two road race winners this year, and that's Danny Sullivan or Bobby Rahal.
Well, it seems that no matter how short or long the season is, it always seems like there are new drivers who try to stake their claim in big-time racing. And Gary Lee, our pit reporter, is down there right now with a story on 3 of them.
Thank you and good afternoon. You guys have talked about some of the regulars. Well, today we have one entirely new face and 2 drivers back from a sabbatical. Jeff McPherson taking his debut ride in the number 12 Frank Arciero Wines March. We saw him on ESPN in the Super V competition. He's been in Europe most of this season driving Formula 3. Also back from a sabbatical, Desiree Wilson, car 59, the Schaefer Machinist Union March. That's the car normally driven by Johnny Parsons on the ovals. And also back after a sabbatical is a driver that you're familiar with from his broadcast here on ESPN. I know he'd like to be in the cockpit, though. Derek Daly driving the Pace Skoll March. That is the car that has usually been driven by Ed Pym, and you're substituting for Ed.
Indeed. I've spoken many times about this team, and really I think Pat Kehoe and Mike Kerb seem to be putting together a team that I think is potential winners possibly next season.
Now, this is just for the interim, right? So what is in the works for you next year?
Oh, it's so hard to tell, Gary. I speak to many teams and sponsors, and you never know how the roll of the dice is going to go. I mean, I was actually commenting on Ed Pym's race at Pocono when I saw him have the accident. That's why I'm here. So I'm discussing with many people. I do want to be back in the car. I've enjoyed my ESPN broadcasting, but fellas, my heart isn't in it. I want to be a race car driver.
So you've been talking about the drivers today. Pancho Carter gets to talk about the drivers.
Well, I'm happy that Pancho can get a bit of experience up in the booth. I've had enough.
Have a good ride. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you.
Well, we'll miss you in the booth, but best of luck in today's race. Today's Escort Radar Warning 200 is being brought to you by Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. And by Mobil 1 Synthetic Motor Oil. Mobil 1 protects your engine better than any conventional motor oil. And by Budweiser Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. We'll be back with the starting lineup for today's Escort Radar Warning PPG INDYCAR World Series 200 from Mid-Ohio right after this. Back at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Complex, and yesterday Pancho Carter had a chance to take a tour around this 2.4-mile course while we were watching the pole setter Mario Andretti once again set on a pole for the 4th time in 1986.
Here we have Mario Andretti coming down the front stretch. He'll accelerate up and downshift into 3rd gear going into the first turn here. It's a rather high-speed corner. As he gets out of that, exits right out next to the road. He'll run up towards the S's, turns 2 and 3. This is a little critical because you've got to get set up just right for turn 4, called the Kehoe corner. You get through that corner and you'll be going out as fast as you can to exit, so you get a real good straightaway speed here.
This is the long backstretch. As you can see, it's rated as turn number 5. There are 15 in all. It's 2.4 miles around. Fastest part of the racetrack, maybe 180 miles an hour, and then surprise.
Certain is real hard braking area, and then more than a 90-degree corner to the right. You'll go completely down to second gear there. Hold second gear on up the little hill here and down into what they call madness. Is kind of off camber corner that lightens the car up quite a bit. You do a right-hander here, shift to third gear right here, do a little left-hander there, and down over the hill again.
At Cleveland, we have the back 40. This is the back section of this racetrack, but you don't want to call a state park the back 40, but they're about halfway around the racetrack. Very scenic back here. Pretty intricate, but it sets you up for the final part of the course.
It certainly is. You come down here into what they call the carousel corner. It seems like corners get a lot of names all the way, and you've got to exit this corner good too, because you got a real good left-hand corner here, and then on down to the start-finish line again.
There is a full graphic of the course. You can see the 15 turns there dramatically, and the drivers will tell you that this is also a very demanding course. Bobby Rahal, I know he's a little prejudiced because this is his home racetrack, but he was echoed, his thoughts were echoed by many of the drivers, Pancha, who said that after even just a 200-mile race here at Mid-Ohio, you know you turned in a day's worth of labor.
Well, that's for sure, as you can see just by the track description.
Every road course has its own little innuendos and personality, and yesterday, Pancha and I had a chance to follow the guy who was getting ready to set on the pole, Mario Andretti, around for a lap, and now we're going to take you with us.
Here we have Mario Andretti coming down the front stretch. He'll accelerate up and downshift into third gear going into the first turn here. It's a rather high-speed corner. As he gets out of that, exits right out next to the road. He'll run up towards the S's, turns 2 and 3. This is a little critical because you've got to get set up just right for turn 4, called the keyhole corner. You get through that corner and you'll be going out as fast as you can to exit, so you get a real good straightaway speed here.
This is the long backstretch. As you can see, it's rated as turn number 5. There are 15 in all. It's 2.4 miles around. Fastest part of the racetrack, maybe 180 miles an hour, and then surprise.
Certain is real hard braking area, and then more than a 90-degree corner to the right. You'll go completely down to second gear there. Hold second gear on up the little hill here and down into what they call madness. Is kind of off camber corner that lightens the car up quite a bit. You do a right-hander here, shift to third gear right here, do a little left-hander there, and down over the hill again.
At Cleveland, we have the back 40. This is the back section of this racetrack, but you don't want to call a state park the back 40, but they're about halfway around the racetrack. Very scenic back here. Pretty intricate, but it sets you up for the final part of the course.
It certainly is. You come down here into what they call the carousel corner. It seems like corners get a lot of names all the way, and you've got to exit this corner good too, because you got a real good left-hand corner here, and then on down to the start-finish line again.
Usually like to try and describe with a familiar object the course, but here at Mid-Ohio it's kind of difficult to do. I like to think that it most closely resembles a Civil War cannon if you think of those straightaways leading up to the keyhole at the north end of the racetrack. Here is the starting lineup for today's PPG IndyCar race. On the pole is Mario Andretti. He sits there for the 4th time this year. This is the Newman Haas Hanna Car Wash Lola. It's not a new track record, by the way. He will be flanked by a man who has done very well on road courses this year, Danny Sullivan, the Miller American March. He qualified in at better than 113 miles an hour. Row 2 is Emerson Fittipaldi, the Marlboro March. Emerson is flanked on his right by Bobby Rahal. This is his home racetrack. This is the Budweiser True Sports car. Row number 3, the man who contested for the championship a year ago, Al Unser Jr., the Domino's Pizza Lola, the second Lola in the top 5. Alongside of Al Unser Jr. is Roberto Guerrero. Roberto is in the True Value Emerson Electric March. In row 4, a couple of the early season stars, Michael Andretti in the Craco STP Lean Machine March, and on his right side, his neighbor Kevin Kogan, the 711 March. Both of these drivers won races in the early part of the season. In row number 5, 8th and 9th position, Jeff Brabham. These are the Gallus Lolas in 8th and 9th. Jeff in the Valvoline Spirit Lola, and Roberto Moreno, his roommate and roommate in the 5-star. Marketing, obviously, it's a Lola too. Brabham, by the way, in a Honda. Row 6, making up 11th and 12th position, Rick Mears. Somewhat of a surprise seeing him qualifying back that far. The Pennzoil Z7 powered by a Chevrolet. And the pair with him is Raul Boisel, car number 22, the Duracell Copper Top. Here's one of the other Lolas in the top 12. In the 7th row, Tom Sneva, rapidly learning on the road courses, the Skoal Bandit, and he is paired up with Jacques Villeneuve. Villeneuve driving car number 71, the Hemmelgarn Living Well Value Pack March. The rest of the field from the 8th row on back, Jose Le Garza, the Schaefer Machinist Union car, Jeff McPherson in the Arciero Wines car this weekend. The 9th row, Derek Daly, whom we talked to a few moments ago, the Skoll Dairy March, and Ian Ashley, the Canadian, making another start. In row number 10, Randy Lewis, and inside, or rather outside of him, is Ari Leyendyk in the MCI Scott Ladd Foods machine. Row number 11, Johnny Rutherford, who has a 500-mile win this year in the Vermont American car, and Dominic Dobson in the traditional leader car March. Row number 12 is Desiree Wilson getting a ride in the Machinist Schaefer beer car this weekend, with Dale Coyne alongside, and in 13th row, all alone, is Rocky Moran in the Genesee Beer Wagon March.
It's quite a lineup there, and I think we're going to have a start on the backstretch here. It's a little different than most racetracks. They have the start-finish line here on the front stretch, but it backs the cars up clear back into the last corner, so they go ahead and do the start on the backstretch. It's a little bit safer. Still here warming up, going up through the keyhole corner, or not keyhole, yeah, the keyhole corner we talked about earlier.
200 miles. You see the pace car, the Corvette pace car, pulling off into the grass in the backstretch. The front row lines, the second row, the third row. Here comes Andretti, Ed Sullivan, side by side. The green flag is out, and the Escort radar warning 200 is underway.
Accelerated, and the green flag came out. It's a hard braking here. Really stacked up to start the race.
Mario Andretti leading the field around. Michael is a little bit out of the lead. Actually going by in the copper top car, and the rest of the field falling by. It's Andretti, Sullivan, Emerson, Fittipaldi, and the very clearly distinguishable Marlboro Rocket Red White machine just going by. The yellow, white, and bicycle colors of the Roberto Marino the Gallus team. Coming down the main stretch, it's relatively short as main stretches go. There you see Mario already passing by, going past this time scoring tower, going through turn 1, turn 2, that series of S's that Ponto told you about. There's a short straightaway there on your right. Hairpin known as the keyhole, and just after this, they go into the long backstretch where you really let it hang out.
strong, very competitive for the early going here. Everybody's kind of stringing themselves out, but nobody is really getting too far ahead.
Al Unser Jr., Michael Andretti, the two famous racing sons who did well last year. Al Unser Jr., of course, almost winning the points championship this year. Michael is right there. Our Andretti, the INDYCAR race at Mid-Ohio. Our Andretti was the pole setter. For those of you who are watching the INDYCAR race down in the Southland, we hope to be able to get that race back underway. Michael Andretti on your screen, chasing Al Unser Jr. Still really too early in the race to show. He's got to be thinking about his father. Mario leads this race. Michael is right in the thick of the points battle with his dad. He seems way up in the distance. His father streaking away. He's got to be paying attention. Well, Danny Sullivan, as you can see, has closed the gap. If you can see it visually shortening right there as they move through the keyhole. It's like the third turn in this racetrack. I'm going to give you an idea of the speed of these cars. The average speed goes down to about 15 miles per hour on the road course, but we have some this morning digital readouts on the screen going down the back straightaway. There you see 167, 164 miles an hour, and that's just a little bit after they get off of the throttle.
That certainly is. You see it's pretty bad. He's in different parts as they go by. So speed factor depending on how deep everybody's trying to drive it into the corner.
Pancho Rick move on a road.
Well, I guess it's had a little bit of the worst for that. He's missing a try and bring that march with the Chevrolet engine up towards the front if he can. But it seems
nice tight IndyCar racing for Mid-Ohio. You know, sometimes in this track, because of its configuration, report on their might have been spraying some water scale in that DC1. It's a chassis design of his own. They say that here at Mid-Ohio, sometimes the cars have a tendency to stretch out. Indianapolis racing. You know, Pancho, I talk a little bit about that. A lot of people say, well, don't you like to go down south because there are
they certainly are too. Nose to tail as they do. Even on the shorter tracks, because the cars need the clean air and to go as fast as they can. So right now, though, I really enjoy this race right now. The competition is very close. The two pole sitters, the front row sitters, are getting ready to just waiting for Mario either to make a mistake or to find out where he has an advantage on him. You also have Emerson Fittipaldi just right there waiting to take advantage on either one of them.
Dust in the back row, somebody just dropped the wheel offside. I haven't seen that on the top of the screen. Nobody went off course, but they dropped that in the with Fittipaldi right behind them, each of them looking for maybe just a little bit of gap that would suck them up behind the car in front of them and maybe move them by. There's Fittipaldi looking to the inside. Not enough room for Sullivan.
The cars on the straightaway. Find guys trying to use that straightaway
Tell you we're about 20 laps away from the first pit stop, but preparations are underway. These are tire warmers. They're actually tire blankets that encompass the tire. The theory is that the racing temperature of a tire is about 160 to maybe 210 or 220. So these blankets can actually warm these tires up to about 150 to 60 degrees. Now, according to Bobby Rahal, who has the most laps on this racetrack in practice, it takes about 2 laps to get the tires up to working temperature. These blankets, it only takes about 1 lap, so a crew could gain about 5 to 6 seconds after each pit stop.
One of the innovations of 1986 that actually first saw in a Formula One race. After 9 laps, the unofficial top 10 Jr., Michael Andretti, Roberto Guerrero, Kevin Colgan, Jeff Brabham, and Roberto Moreno. Danny Sullivan is trailing right now Mario Andretti. Earlier this week, a lot of the people were complaining about the track was too slippery, so we took the opportunity to ask Danny Sullivan.
About Mid-Ohio, it's a track the drivers say is a little slippery out there. It's a track that is considered very busy. You guys have a lot of work in the car.
There's definitely no time to relax and these cars and the speed we're going is actually not so much a corner, but you have to pay attention to what you're doing. The big problem here as well is the surface. They've got a sealer down that is just, it looked like this morning somebody had polished it, and it was just that slippery. And there's a good rule of thumb with that. Anything that looks slippery usually is about 2 weeks ago, and we don't remember it being like that. So it's a concern. Maybe it's to do with the weather or whatever, but it'll be a factor during the course of the race.
He just said something that I think is almost self-evident. Even looks slippery.
Well, that's one thing. Eyes usually don't deceive you. Occasionally they do, but not very often. But the track does look a little slippery. It's probably going to be. And that's one thing that the drivers are very the track. To see how it visually does change. You can see some oil and some tire wear down on the track as you can see the corner glisten there. And it gives the driver an idea if somebody does have a problem losing an engine in front of them, they can avoid or straddle the oil line and not lose control of their car. But, right now, it's hard to say whether the track is very slippery. All the front four right there running real close together. Nobody seems to be really too out of shape. Danny makes a run at Mario a little bit and then kind of lags back a little bit. So I think that they're definitely having a good dogfight right now.
Just an unofficial rundown of some of the other people still on the track. 11th position, all unofficial. One years despite that. As I'm talking, one of our leaders is coming in. Emerson is coming in. There's Emerson in the pits. Any guesses, Pancho?
None really. He was staying right with Danny Sullivan and ahead of Bobby Rahal. Don't really understand why he's pitting early. It must have been something just in the last section of the track that he didn't like and decided to make a quick pit and see if he can get it rectified.
We figure on 2 stops for fuel, and I think unless I'm miscalculating, Pancho, we may be just inside that window. A stop right now will still allow you to stop only one more time and get to the finish.
Well, I don't think that this is anywhere near a scheduled early stop. I think that Emerson has found something. It looks to be on the dash with the engine gauge or something. So without knowing for sure, I guess that it's something unexpected, not anything scheduled this early in the race.
Here's the 5th running. Michael Andretti. Michael trails Alonso right ahead of him. The track. Steve is 12th. Jack Villeneuve is 13th. Daly Garrison is 14th. Raul Boesel is 15th. Number 12 car, Jeffrey Hurston in 16th position. And Derek Daly is 16th and number 66. Then Ari Lyondike, Ian Ashley, and Johnny Rutherford.
You can see now the top 3 have kind of stretched out a little bit on the 4th place, which is Alonso Jr., but still a good battle for the lead in the first 3 spots.
Danny Sullivan, who's run up front in so many road courses this year, continues to run up there right now, following Bobby Rahal, and somebody is missing the points leader so far for 1986. He was first passed by Sullivan, then passed by Rahal and Pancho. This did not sound like a good pit stop.
No, it didn't. In fact, the engine didn't sound like it was running quite right when he came in, so I don't know if he's experienced something similar to what Fittipaldi has with an electrical problem with the engine or not, but it looks as though the crew is getting ready to pull the engine cover off and take a look at it. So it's really a shame because it looked like Mario had his competitors pretty well in hand today.
Boy, it's been an up and down season for this guy. 2 years ago when he was the points champion, he won all those races. Last year, he came back to be a duplicate of the 1984 season. He came into today's race 4 points ahead to 91, he rather came in 5 points ahead. He got 1 point the fast qualifier. Bobby Rahal and 10 points ahead of Al Unser Jr. and Danny Sullivan. Right now, Sullivan really points on Mario. And Rahal, by the way, was in 6th position with 66 points, 30 points.
Well, that's true. I think, though, still the point battle for leading the points is maybe could change again because Michael's running back in 4th position, battling with Al Unser Jr. There's a good chance of him to work his way on up and possibly even win this race today.
Boy, the attrition sometimes strikes like lightning. The first 4 cars were so far they looked like they were running in a class all on their own and running comfortably. Let's check again on the speed gun there in the back stretch, the escort gun following Bobby Rahal. Again, Harvard Hager, 165 miles an hour. Remember earlier we saw 166, 167 miles an hour. And there's a man who's traveling about a half a mile an hour right now, Pancho.
Well, I don't know. I think Mario himself is probably traveling inside that helmet a lot faster, but you can obviously see that he's pretty disgusted with the way things have happened. It looks as though he's done for the day.
Boy, it's a long season. The set of mechanical problems at this time. One of the secrets to Al Unser Jr.'s success, he hasn't led that many laps this year. Matter of fact, he's led 74 of the 1,540 some odd ones that we've run. But he has finished so many races. There's only been one race this year that man right there, Al Unser Jr., has failed to finish this year.
That's true, and it looks as though Michael Andretti has dropped back a spot. Al Unser Jr. here, so there's quite a battle.
Mario, it seems in your career it's feast or famine. It was a glorious jubilation 2 weeks ago at Pocono. Today an early out. What's the problem?
Exhaust. Well, where they have a flexible pipe that bellows, they call it, just disintegrated.
We had talked to some of the drivers in that ARS race earlier today. They said it's very slick out there. How are the track conditions?
Well, it was a bit slick, but there was no particular problem. My car was really working well. I was running just the pace that I wanted to run, and as I was getting rid of the fuel now, I was beginning to start pressing a little harder because I didn't want to abuse my tires too early, and it seemed like it was working because I was pulling away from Danny a little bit, and this happened, so.
Does the fact that Michael's still out there offset the disappointment any?
I hope he wins it.
Mario Andretti, a spectator this afternoon in Mid-Ohio.
Well, some interesting words, and that's got to be a tough call to make because there's family ties there, Pancho, but these guys are going to the championship. That's a lot of money, a lot of extra bonus.
Oh, it certainly is. I think, though, that when something happens like that and you're able to drop out, you root for whoever might be friends, in this case, family, and his son, Michael, and then you see there where pulled on by Roberto right now is putting on a pretty serious charge trying to catch up with our 2 front runners, Danny Sullivan and Bobby Rahal.
3 people we're talking about right here. Roberto Guerrero just whizzed by to the left-hand side of your screen, and that man right there, Al Unser Jr. There's Roberto and Michael Andretti. These are 3 of the
never really know exactly what it is because if you did, you'd be able to do it every year. But, like you say, every now and then you can just the crew being just right or just having it with that to where they can go ahead and run a little stronger.
Roberto Guerrero, Al Unser Jr., and Michael Andretti working their way through traffic for the early stages of the Mid-Ohio INDYCAR race. Danny Sullivan leading this contest here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Complex. Emerson Fittipaldi, by the way, has just staggered out of the pits. Remember, we saw him come in earlier. He was among the top 4. He was leading and dominating this race. And by the way, the number 56 car of Rocky Moran, the Genesee Beer Wagon, Dick Hamlin's car. And they sure get an award for perseverance. They had gearbox problems, and they are off course and out of the races today. Gary, you got some more information for us on the Fittipaldi situation?
George, we were trying to squeeze in and talk to George Heuning. George, again, what was the problem with MO?
Well, we had a short in the wiring harness. We don't really know what caused it, and we disconnected all the gauges to the dash panel. Let's see what the problem was, and replaced the battery, and now we'll just have to see if we fixed it or if it'll run a few laps again.
But he does have the gauges again.
No, he does not have the gauges. We disconnected all that stuff because we felt that may be where the problem lies.
For a driver, that's like flying blind then.
Well, it's not that big of a problem. The tachometer is a mechanical gauge, so the electrics don't bother that, so he has to tack, and that's all he really needs.
Now it's just a matter of waiting to see if MO comes around.
Officially, from the kart scoring off the computer, he lost 7 laps in the pits. Pancho, one other thing we might mention while we're talking about different parts of the technical parts of these race cars. Mario has dropped out of the race, did not give us an opportunity to talk about innovation which debuted on his car this morning.
I don't think that they had any problem with that. They were hoping to be able to run the whole race, and it would give them a little bit of an advantage. But he dropped out early with an exhaust problem, and now Emo's had an electrical problem. And like George Heuning was saying, the crew chief for Emerson's car, that if they cut the electronic gauges, it just lets the driver not have to worry about watching what the engine's up to. The main thing that the driver is interested in is the boost pressure and his RPM while he's driving. You monitor the engine gauges just in case there is a problem, but when you're driving at speed like he's doing now, staying with the front two, the leaders, Danny Sullivan and Bobby Rahal, you mainly concentrate on just the 2 gauges that are important to you.
Well, 25 laps is the point here where you start thinking about pit stops. We're looking at 9th, 10th, right there. Tom Stever, Rick Mears was 9th, and the 11th position on the racetrack is, who is that, Punch?
Looks to me as though it's
There we go. Scott Villeneuve, who had that very disappointing crash on the very first lap of the Canadian INDYCAR race, which we televised live here on ESPN. And Villeneuve, with his horns towed in just a little bit from what he normally does on a road course. Normally he's charging away and pounding at the door for first, second, and third. When they drop the green flag, pick the green flag.
Well, he certainly is. There you saw Tom Sneva ducking in the pits ahead of Jacques. But Jacques had a little off-course experience on Friday. This could be a regular scheduled pit stop. He didn't give any indication that anything was wrong, and he was more or less hanging in where he had qualified.
Remember, the range of the Indianapolis car is like, what, 72 to 75 miles, Pancho, the 40-gallon tanks and that formula, that 1.8 miles per gallon.
Well, that's true. A lot of times some of the drivers may take a chance on going a lighter loader a bit early and go for some tires or something. But there you saw Tom come in and just do a quick change in the front. So maybe his handling was off just a little bit.
That being the case, we told you this is an 84-lap race, so you can do the mathematics yourself. If there's some way you can fit at least 2 segments at the end that total at least 50 laps, you should not have a problem going the distance here. No problem whatsoever. Talking with a lot of the crews this weekend, they said they don't really anticipate. But, you know, the fuel situation is an interesting one. It's not a matter that the Indianapolis cars never have enough fuel. It's just they used to go too fast.
Well, that's true. Sometimes it seems like they use almost as much fuel with the throttle shut when they're deaccelerating into the corner. It's one of the things that the new electronic ignition or injection system is supposed to help eliminate. It's supposed to not let the engine get so much fuel it's not being burned, and thus help their mileage. I understand Mario's car during practice they were getting in excess of 2 miles per gallon, which is plenty to lock in. So we think that add to a little less to worry about during the race, and that's whether or not you're going to run out of fuel.
Miami Vice's Danny Sullivan and the Columbus gas man Bobby Rahal. I call him that because we saw his picture with a Columbus Gas Company helping advertise for them this weekend in some of the programs and the special editions that were put into the newspapers publicizing this race. So maybe IndyCar Racing in an indirect sense has 2 gas men now. Tom Stevens is always going to be the gas man. He's so good at cranking off those super hot laps one at a time for qualifying on an oval, and now we have Bobby Rahal. And you know, Pancho, as I watch this race and I think back about the history of the Indianapolis cars in Mid-Ohio, I got to think that Rahall's got him covered.
Well, he certainly should. I mean, this is, he even admits this is his home track. This is where he has done the majority of his racing, especially being owned by the Truman people with, you know, the True Sports. He's definitely looking to maybe do 2 years in a row here by winning this race as he did last year.
Bobby Rahal, as you people down in the South who are watching the stock car race might be wanting to call him, but it's Bobby Rahal. Professor Bobby Rahal. He's one of the more educated and one of the more well-spoken of the Indianapolis car drivers. And we talked to him earlier this week about running here on his home track, the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Complex.
You got to be right on the apex. You just can't afford to ignore any part of this racetrack to go very quickly. And it's not only you have to be very precise, but you have to be aggressive, and it's very busy. You know, physically, it's a tough racetrack.
Pancho, elaborate just a bit. When he says you got to be aggressive, what does that mean for this one?
Well, you cannot go out and just ride around. You've got to run hard, like they're doing right now. In fact, it looks as though that Bobby is really pressing Danny to try and get the pace built up. But I think Danny is running the fastest laps that he's run during the race right now. But you've got to attack this racetrack. You can't just go out and ride it. You've got to try to do each corner as fast as you can.
Pancho, there is Jeff McPherson, who had a big chance this weekend. He got a ride in the Frank Arciero Wines March. This was the only 85 chassis to get into the race today. And Jeff McPherson, who's been running all over the world, literally, all the way from the land down under to Europe in the last 7 or 8 months, had a big chance this weekend and qualifying in 16th position, even though the car dropped out early. I think he may have made the most of it under the conditions.
Well, I think he probably did. It's something obviously has happened with his sideline. It doesn't look like he's got into the guardrail or anything. Just like the car has stopped and he's pulled it to the side and they're trying to get it out of the way. It looks as though Bobby Rahal's having a little trouble with the lap car, and it appears to be Tom Steele who just made the pit stop earlier, and he's trying to get ahead of him so he can get back in his duel with Danny Sullivan, but it's costing him time right now.
Remember that Sneva was up among the top 12 before his pit stop, but right now Rahal has got to mind his P's and Q's because third of the way in, Danny Sullivan, winner of the 1985 Indianapolis 500, and a man who just about owned the front row in 1985, continues to lead this race, 25 laps completed of an 84-lap event. There is Roberto Guerrero. He has moved to third position. Roberto, from time to time, in the last couple of years, has looked very strong. Here is Rick Mears. Rick was running in ninth position before he pitted.
Certainly was. I think that coming in looks like a routine pit stop there, getting tires before he had to deal with the car. I don't see him trying to get any indication for a change.
Gary Lee is there. Gary?
Well, very routine, very fast pit stop for the Pennzoil Chevrolet. Now, Rick is very high on this new Chevrolet power plant, and they've not made a commitment for the entire season. It's going to be a race-by-race experiment, but Rick is very, very happy with this engine.
Bobby Rahal, who was among the top 2, is also pitted while we have been watching the progress of Rick Mears. You can see his 6 wins in 29 starts. There was a time when I thought Rick was the very best. Things have slowed down the last couple of years. There was the leader, Bobby Rahal. Got to be a routine planned stop.
I would say so. He was a little bit for a while till he got in traffic on Danny Sullivan, but he's gone ahead and made the commitment to pit early, and they'll be up to Danny to see when they're going to come in. I know he's done an excellent job with the pit stop. Real good too. He's out there and still in a real good, strong position.
If you've ever wondered what it takes, what it looks like to see a car and a team run a perfect Indianapolis race, I would say that nobody is more equipped and prepared to run a perfect race than a racetrack. There's Sullivan. Sullivan should be coming in momentarily. I'm sure he has heard on the radio that many of the other front runners have stopped by, so Sullivan coming out already lined up, keeps the eye for BBB the power down, and Sullivan must be on the radio right now. Down the pit lane, and our Gary Lee, as usual, is there. Gary.
The crew is ready, and here comes Danny Sullivan. The tires out of those blanket warmers are heated up to almost operating temperature. It is a 4-tire change. They'll top off the fuel, very routine, and he will be the last pit before the pit exit. Maybe Pancho could talk about the advantage of being in this area, the pit area, as he exits and goes back out to the competition.
Well, that was an excellent pit stop. And you notice that Danny's leaving. Slow down again to make it. That gives him a one shot out of the exit and go as fast as he can. Already preheated tires, scuffed and up to operating temperature.
This should put temporarily at least Roberto Guerrero into the lead. Roberto in the Emerson Electric car. There is the true value machine of Dan Cotter. He will have the support of this team. It's real difficult to pick a favorite, or real difficult to be overly sympathetic in a job that we have, and particularly where you sit as a competitor. But you must admit, they are really in for a little bit of good luck.
Well, that's for sure. They've had some bad luck. It's interesting to see him ducking off and coming into the pits. It was a good move. He was just coming up to get into some lap traffic, and it was a good choice to come in then, make his pit stop before he got hung up or delayed with the other two front runners, Ray Hall and Sullivan, closing in right after.
If they ran every race on the 2.5-mile quadrangle oval at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, this guy would be a 3-time national champion by now. He does very well there. In 3 races, he's been 2nd, 3rd, 4th.
Well, that's true. He does have a real good finishing record. And so far, the last few races this year, he has not had. We've got Guerrero leaving the pits there. We've got a quick lift of he comes out in relation to Ray Hall. And also, Alan
Derek Daly, you saw him follow out of the pits during the last lap. There is Johnny Rutherford. There is Al Unser Jr. And these pit stops, of course, will really scramble the standings. And it's not so much just how long you have paused in the pits to get the service done, but it's how effective the driver was getting from slow down into the pit entrance and out of the pit exit. Who knows? He's leading this race right now. We're checking all the time. We're scoring tapes. He's leading Stanley Sullivan. He's going to come back to Mid-Ohio.
Driving for Rick Gallas and do a hell of a job. They work very hard. And, we won't be the only one who falls out of this race.
All right, disgruntled, but there he is, Jeff Brabham.
Absolutely, Pancho. You know, they have had very good luck. It's not been the problem this year. There's Emerson Fittipaldi talking about not being the only one out of the race and is in again, and this time it looks terminal. Getting back to the Gala story, Pancho, nice.
Same thing. Michigan had all 3 cars finishing anyway, so I think that I saw all 3 at top 10 at Michigan and almost at Pocono. It was the other way around, but we had all 3 cars finish both of those races, which was excellent for the Gallus racing team. And now it looks as though the battling spirits gone by the wayside with some gearbox problems.
Don't want to get away from the race for the lead here. That is Sullivan. That is Ray Hall. We're watching what's going on. Ray Hall looks to the inside, but I don't think there's quite enough room this lap. We'll probably have to follow Sullivan around Madness and around the back section of the racetrack, turn 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, getting back to the Gallus stage. You know, Pancho, because that Rick Gallus came with Al Unser Jr., when he lost Al as a driver, and kind of lost him, he is here to stay. He's done a very good job of putting together a little empire, and I think he's building very solid blocks for the future.
Well, he certainly is. In fact, he's going to build his own car for this year. At least that's in the planning stages anyway. And whether or not he goes ahead and goes through with that, I don't even think he's quite sure right now. He has plans to build a Gallus race car and try to compete with the foreign-made Marxes.
You're looking at Randy Lewis in the Raychem number 36. He is trying to get out of the way because the leaders are coming through. There's Sullivan at number 4, Ray Hall at number 5. Jose Garza is directly in front of him. Jose right now is unofficially showing in 10th position. The machinist union car, the man who almost won the Michigan 500, but the old vet Johnny Rutherford could really get it going when he needed to. There was a shootout between the two of them for the last 50, 60 laps of that race. Johnny just laid one on the young driver Jose. Jose moves over. There goes Sullivan getting by, and Ray Hall hopes he has a he isn't more than a car with him. He's not.
In fact, this is going to be a good battle here. Ray Hall was kind of making a move to the inside, but I think he was just trying to set Sullivan up to make him think he was possibly coming there, because Ray Hall is the one that knows this track real well, as we talked about before. He's the one that can try
Danny Sullivan, Bobby Rahal. You can see that the hills lined with people and lots of trees here in Mid-Ohio. It is truly one of the gorgeous venues for automobile racing, not only in America, but around the world. You know, I've had a chance to be exposed to a number of the Formula One tracks around the world. Mid-Ohio takes a backseat to no one. As a matter of fact, the improvements in the last 4 or 5 years, I think, amount to something like $3 million, and a lot more on the horizon. They're going to have their own sewage treatment plant eventually, which means that you may be able to come to Mid-Ohio and actually have running water and flush toilets. It's something you don't have that often in every racetrack.
Fiberglass portalets that they have around sometimes are not the most ideal place to go and try and relieve yourself. So this is definitely a fine facility. It's all happened since Truman has taken the facility over. It was definitely
another added feature of our coverage today is Vasserstats, as we call them, voice-activated sports reporting. You can see the description here is that the number 4 car, Danny Sullivan, of course, the crew took 17 seconds and change for service. Danny took just 10 seconds, 10.5 seconds, getting in and out of the pits for a total of 27 seconds and 59 hundredths of a second. Number 2, Roberto Guerrero, a total of 29 seconds. And number 3 car, Bobby Rahal, a total of 30 seconds. See how the top runners compare on their pit stops. From an overhead drawing, this and the Meadowlands are the 2 most risky courses on the kart schedule. But it also joins Long Beach and Road America as the most intricate courses, road courses, of course. It's 2.4 miles long, 15 turns, and we're sitting nestled down inside of 140 acres. Lots of natural viewing areas. That's a park. It's just a gorgeous setting. And this 1986 and this race is the 25th anniversary of Mid-Ohio. What a tremendous way to celebrate it with the kart PPG cars.
Well, it certainly is. We've got a tremendous race going on, again, especially for the first spot here with Bobby Rahal pressing Danny Sullivan real hard, trying to take advantage of his knowledge and get ahead of him. We also have a real good battle going on here for 4th and 5th. The 2 more or less juniors, although Michael is not a junior, but the younger Andretti right there, making a pass on his money.
Oh, going 3 abreast almost. Al is trying to stick. Al Unser Jr. held his line. What a move! Al Unser Jr. holding on Michael, fighting for all he was worth. What a tremendous driving job. It's still not over. Oh, off the grass, over the curb, they touch. Al Unser is sideways and spinning out. Oh, tough break. It was a beautiful set of turns until that.
Well, it was. They just were going at it so hard, and it goes to show you there's just not enough room on some parts of this track to run 2 cars. There's Michael. Apparently the wheel banging has caused a little bit of damage. You know, Michael's off to a little later section of the track. He is trying to get back on and get going. Looks as though possibly he's damaged the front end a little bit and can't keep the car on the line.
Well, Pancho, can you pick a villain and a victim in this one?
They're racing hard. They're just going real hard. I think Michael got down in the bumps, got the car up in the air, and more or less lost control of it a little bit, got into Alan Jr. and knocked him sideways and back on up the track. You can see here as he walk out of sight, now just gets his car out of the way, and hopefully he can get back in the race.
What about the theory that going into that right-hander at the end of the backstretch, Michael had the line? Should Al have given away?
Well, I think Al was giving him a little bit of room, but still trying to hold a tight line to where he didn't get completely out of the way. You know, if you give up completely there, you could slide off the track all by yourself. Michael hit the down in the bumps, and I think that caused the car to bounce around, get up in the air. It's tough to say when you're racing that hard wheel to wheel, because they had been for the last 2 corners. You know, who really has the right of way. When you're out in that spot, it's hard to see exactly where your fellow competitor is. You know you're running a blind spot out there.
Little Al in the pits, Al Unser Jr. Kind of recollecting his thoughts there. You know, the points leader coming into today's race, Mario Andretti, out. 2nd place, Michael Andretti, now in the pits. There you see him in the background, the yellow and blue of the Craco colors. 3rd place was Al Unser Jr., and he makes this stop after an off-course excursion.
Sitting underneath the Budweiser bridge there. We've got a car that appears to be maybe on fire. We've got the fire crews coming out there to put it out. He was right behind Unser and Andretti when they had their little wheel banging shunt there. So it's interesting to see. It looks like he has got out of the car.
particularly safe place either. The only thing that I can speculate on, I saw a little bit of debris coming from Michael's car punch, and he went over the speed bumps. I saw it
It could be, as you can see there, it's a really flat spot. It's right on that corner of 11. That's where he's sitting, is right there as you get to the bottom of that little hollow there. So they're going to have to get that car moved before too many more laps go.
Now, for you stock car fans again, should any of you be tuned in here, remember there are no full course yellows. Well, I shouldn't say no. It's a seldom situation where you have a full course yellow. The yellow will be displayed in the area of the disabled car mode. Guys are free to run as hard and as fast as they want to all the rest of the way around. And now, they pick up a lot of the responsibility. They've been past it once. They know that their car potentially is still there, so the yellow flags will still wave, but a lot of the burden now falls into the shoulders of the drivers.
Well, it certainly does. They've got to keep their car under control through that area, but that area is going to change if they try to get out there and get the car out of the way. What they see each time by is people out of the track, possibly get a wrecker out to tow them. And it looks as though that they're going to have to really be so hard that the heat of the battle might get to them, and I don't think you're going to see it real slow. They don't want someone to get a run or get an advantage.
Okay, 37 laps of the 84 are done. Sullivan and Ray was shown in 4th position, but we had a report that Kevin may have stopped out of the course also. Jack Villeneuve is up to 5th. The number 9 car of Roberto Moreno is 6th. Rick Mears is 7th. Tom Snead is 8th. Jose is 9th. Alan Jr. is 10th. And only the first 5 cars, inclusive of Kevin Hogan, are the same lap. We'll have to check that situation on Kevin. Like I said, a report came off the radios that Kevin was off course. Apparently he's been Kevin Hogan needs a good finish on the road course. There's been no question that the team has gotten their act together on the ovals, but on the road course, they've been looking a little bit, not struggling, searching.
With Emerson Fittipaldi, his teammate, out of the race, it would be good to see the other Patrick car with Kevin go on and be able to finish and have a good finish. This battle here for first is really heating up when we've got some lap traffic coming up on again, and there's Bobby trying to take advantage of Danny. Almost got by. The lap traffic really represents your pattern, your style, what you want to do. You don't have a clean racetrack. You got to use different lines. No matter who's going to end up winning this race and also maybe leading here shortly, because Bobby Rahal really put in the pressure on things.
He really is, and Sullivan doing a pretty good job. You know, Pocono was not only an Andretti day, but it was an Andretti weekend. It started out like maybe Mid-Ohio would be the same, but it's not turned out that way. Here's Gary Lee.
With 3 mechanics between their working area and my vantage point, it's very difficult to see what they're doing. Again, it is directly behind the brake rotor, so perhaps, Pancho, you could address that situation.
Well, that's where the steering arm is, or the steering link between the spindle and the gearbox, or the steering box. So imagine what happened in the wheel banging. They've done something to the steering and bent either a steering arm or the tie rod that hooks them together. So it appears that that's where they're working on trying to get the cars on the wheel track straight again. One of the things that looked like Michael was having trouble was trying to get the car just in a straight line.
Once again in deep traffic. Sullivan is looking for just the right place to pass. And it's at this point where the rear view mirrors become very important, particularly to those drivers who the car is being lapped. Running the drivers still look at that situation yesterday here at Mid-Ohio.
You might wonder what this wooden box is sitting here for. It's a template to make sure that there's a big enough opening between the bodywork and the rear wing. As you can see on the other side, this allows the driver to be able to look in the rear view mirror and be able to tell if there's any competitors behind him. It's a safety feature. It's new this year. And when you're out front, it's always nice to know if somebody's pressing you very close.
Danny Sullivan, Bobby Rahal making this look like a 2-car race. There they are right now heading up Tom Sneva. We're about halfway through this 84-lap event. This is the most state park-like of perhaps all of motor racing. All the modern media facilities, they have an enclosed paddock area with individual pit stalls, sort of like being at a Formula One racetrack, but everything, interestingly, is constructed to fit into the environment. Rough wood on the exterior, the interior, new modern steel structures, and the Truman family, the True Sports Complex, they have just done a tremendous job making these motor racing showcases.
Competition today is just as nice as the facility. We've got you know, the two front runners going at it just tooth and nail, you might say, really trying to get an advantage on one another. And while this is happening, you can see on the screen that Roberto Guerrero is slowly picking his way back up again. He dropped off a little bit. You can see there is a good shot of him coming up trying to pick up the front runner. Without too much more time gone by.
Roberto Guerrero has never won an Indianapolis motor car race. What a bright moment that would be in this rising young star's career should he be able to pick up a victory, be it on an oval or a road course. He came as an acknowledged road course expert. Actually, he's been very fast on some of the other By the way, we picked up on the radio that there may have been a fuel pickup problem in Steve's car, and if so, that hurts the mileage. Gary Lee is down there monitoring the situation in the Sneva pit. What about it, Gary?
Well, we do have a pickup problem in Steve's car. He pitted on lap 21 the first time, took on 33 gallons of fuel, and that computes out to about 1.5 miles per gallon. He's not picking up the last 5 gallons in the tank. And as we've said before on ESPN, the fuel is allotted on a basis of 1.8 miles per gallon. So obviously at this rate, with the pickup problem, Tom won't go the distance.
He was the early season points leader. Mario Andretti heading into today's event. And 1, 2, 3 are beginning, the noose seems to be getting a little tighter here.
Really driving real good races, starting to slow down in front too. And it could possibly be that Danny Sullivan is not running as quick as he was prior to the pit stop, and maybe holding the pace back just a little bit, not intentionally, but just because that's as fast as he can get his car to run. Although it doesn't look like it, 160 and 170 miles an hour on their straightaway speed with the radar gun. So maybe it's just that they're all running as hard as they can, closing in slightly.
I would say that, again, the question mark, because of past performance, it's going to be Ray Hall. As he showed us everything he has. Find out what he does with the left off his own. And if Roberto Guerrero catches this duo, if Ray Hall can do nothing, he's giving it all he has. But once Roberto catches, he has to do a little bit. Bobby is going to punch it and take off. If he's got anything left, he will not let Guerrero pass him, and certainly not let him.
Well, I wouldn't think so. Traffic maybe just a little bit better so his timing is where he can kind of put Bobby to a disadvantage in some of the corners. And I think they're working against each other in traffic is maybe letting Roberto find himself in traffic, pick his spots a little clean and not have to worry about
Best line for you, fastest line for the cut. You're selecting the fastest line for you. Taking racetrack away from the competitor.
Position him on the pit stops. So if he can do that again, to where he could go ahead and run his own race again.
Now we've done a lot talking about Bobby Rahal being about the guy who maybe has this race in his control, not necessarily winning this race, but he seems to be the man who's in control. Gary Lee is down there. Gary, what are you picking up down in the pits?
Now let's talk some more about Bobby Rahal. This is one racetrack where we cannot second guess Bobby. He has so much savvy and so much experience in the lap time on this course. I went and talked to Steve Hall, the team manager. Steve, is he holding back just a bit? And Steve said emphatically, no, this is a very hard race. We're even on the racetrack. We are even in
looks like he's got room. No, the camera angle distorted that just a little bit, Pancho.
That certainly does. I think what he is he's kind of putting his nose over there, getting and less in front of him. And maybe by doing that, he made the big mistake in one of the corners and be able to take advantage of it.
Talking about Sullivan as Rahal. We'll see a little bit of side bite that time. Looked like a little bit of dirt tracking. I mentioned that some people might think that he didn't take his racing serious enough, but he really has, and Danny Sullivan is a superstar in this profession also. Over half of the race is complete here in Mid-Ohio, and Sullivan and Rahal are now in heavy lap traffic as they have been for the last 10 laps. They figure to be in it for the next 30 laps also. Sullivan has led 14, like 15 laps. Guerrero led only the 1 lap on the other 2 points. Oh, I beg your pardon, yeah. Make that about 20 laps that Sullivan has led. Okay, Sullivan's led 30. Gotcha. Next case. 35 laps left. Is this sponsored? With the race firmly in the hands of Danny Sullivan, it's time for the Napa mid-race recap. After 42 laps, the average speed was 108 miles per hour. There had been 3 leaders to that point, Sullivan, Guerrero, and Mario Andretti. There were 3 lead changes, one of those lead changes taking place during pit stops. The lap leader after 42 laps was Danny Sullivan. He continues to lead. He had led 27 laps. There were 7 cars in the lead lap and 13 cars still running at that juncture. Cars out of the race, Mario Andretti disappointingly the first one out, Rocky Moran, Dale Coyne, Jeff McPherson, Jeff Brabham, Emerson Fittipaldi also ran in the top 4, then Dominic Dobson and Ari Leyendyk. Down in the pits, Gary Lee, who has been monitoring the situation down there. How do you see it here, Gary, halfway through the race?
Well, again, it's a toss-up between Bobby Rahal and Danny Sullivan. As Steve Horn said, it's a good race on the track. It is a good race here in the pit area, and to make it even more even, both teams are using the tire warming blanket, so there is no advantage for either crew. Pancho?
Well, it looks as though that they're just, it's a much better race at mid-race than I think a lot of people had forecast. But right now, wait for our next pit stop, see if the crews can do their job.
Number 1, emblematic of the National Championship car of a year ago. The number being given to Rick Mears this year. Rick Mears has this year. He has gone 8 years in a row, I believe it is, with at least 1 win. Will this break the streak?
It possibly could, although there are some races left in the series that he is good at. The possibility of Michigan down there. Got a good chance of winning. He doesn't have a good chance of winning the race yet this year, and it's Tom Steve.
Tom Steve is in 10th position. He is one of 5 cars that are 1 lap down. He continues to flash those arms back and forth around this twisty, curvy Mid-Ohio sports car course. And there is his teammate, Gary Lee. Those of us addition with the retirement of Rick Mears, 10th position just before Rick dropped out. Derek has run a solid race. He's got to be pleased, Punch. He's had an opportunity to practice.
Well, he certainly should be pleased. This was a car that they didn't actually even get any practice in on the first session on Friday because they were still working on it here at the track.
Bob Fernley is the crew chief. He's the man who's put together this entire school team. Canadian Tires come along and help. They've got just a myriad of sponsors who have jumped on the bandwagon in this school 6633 team this year. And it is one of the most organized teams, particularly when the teams in IndyCar racing. There's another one that looks like he's like Rick Gallis in this one long haul. And I think we've got another potentially viable force here that may be growing on the IndyCar system.
One thing you've got to do is a lot of sponsors they look like they're doing that. There's two cars that are leading this race. As you can see, Bobby Rahal keeps trying to stick that long back straightaway there to try and outbrake him. It's definitely going to be a battle. Now the quickest.
But the tire wear is obviously going to be just a slightly different. Maybe such a small thing as the tire wear on Sullivan's cars. Ability to run up on Sullivan than what he had a few laps ago. And Roberto Guerrero is moving in. Is Ray Hall watching Roberto? Ray Hall want to pass him. Knowing this is coming up in the next 5 laps. Will he wait?
Well, I don't know. I don't think he really wants to wait. Now, whether or not he's watching the mirrors, really trying to Roberto Guerrero and Jock Dillon going at it. Not as hot and heavy as our leaders are, but they are definitely trying to provide for their position, which are 5th and 6th on the grid.
Jock Dillon, he's another driver who has connection to Canadian Tire people. This is the
Guerrero took advantage of that moment and just jumped right by Bobby Rahal. That's what happens when you have your momentum stop. The driver that's not right there, your car lays back, he can take advantage of that and go right on by.
Young Roberto Guerrero showing that he has learned his lesson well. The last 4 years on the IndyCar circuit. There is Ian Ashley pointing to the left for the leaders to go by. He doesn't want anything to do with this. As the leaders go by. There is Ian right there in the middle of the track. Sullivan's looking for a place to go, and here come the leaders moving up.
Yeah, Danny tried to get underneath him there. Ian obviously didn't see him, had to, kind of shut the door on Danny. Danny had to get down the inside. There went Guerrero taking the inside line past Bobby Rahal. To get Danny Sullivan.
Pit stops are coming up. The leaders all stop. 6 left, 48. We have completed 53 laps, so if they're on schedule, you would expect it to happen by about lap 56. 28 is at 86. Go the distance. I'm guessing they also
Usually do during this stage of the race because they don't have the fuel used for the warm-up before the green flag. So you got a little extra fuel for the middle section between the pit stops that you can go that you can't at the start of the race because you do use some fuel that isn't counted in the mileage as far as useful out of the tank.
some of the people beginning to come in. We have neither one of our 2 leaders, and yes, we do. It's Bobby Rahal. Gary with Bobby Rahal's pit.
Bobby did not have a straight shot in. He had to drive around Villeneuve in car 71. Now, we talk about technology, we talk about application. Everything has been even on the track and in the pits. However, the Budweiser team has blown a fuse in their tire warmers. So these tires going on the car are cold. It may take Bobby, after a very quick stop, a couple of laps to get those tires back up to operating temperature. That could spell the difference.
7 cars have been able to stay on the pit stops. Pit stops coming up. One of our leaders has been in, Bobby Rahal. We certainly expect Danny Sullivan the next time around in the other 5 cars that are in the top 10. Also staying in a hotel that's near a little village whose sheriff is Richard. I don't think the two of those necessarily correlate, but then again, anyway, getting back to this race, we anticipate pit stops coming up right
It's been a little bit slippery all weekend, I think, and we're starting to approach another Roberto. This one, the 5-star marketing car at Gallus Racing. So it'll be interesting to see when they get to traffic if they do like to go ahead and duck in the pits. Instead the lap cars in the pits. So we'll have to wait and see if they're going to try and press each other or go ahead and make their schedule.
Outer reaches was lap 28, it was lap 56. So it would seem, based on what Pancho was telling me earlier, that they still have the capability of maybe going 1 or 2 more laps if they so choose. 2 cars that entered the race today had which gave them a little bit more information than most of the teams have. Both of them are ready conventional system where there is somebody's wife or girlfriend down in the cross running back and forth with the crew chief saying, should we come in now or later?
Well, it's a little more sophisticated than that. A lot of times they do figure the fuel mileage, but they know usually just exactly how many laps, especially on a road course here where you don't have the yellow super pin, how much mileage track that would want a bad condition where they want to pit and they get the track filled up or whatever, but they usually do it within like a 4 or 5 lap window.
Danny Sullivan.
Here they are, both of them coming in together.
Danny Sullivan comes into the pits, followed by Roberto Guerrero, and Gary Lee is down there and ready to call the pit action for you. Here's Gary.
There he is. Danny stops right on the spot. Now, some of these crews are spending up to $2,500 for these tire warming blankets, and let's see if it makes a difference, because these are hot tires going on. The tire change, they're topping off the 40 gallons. Now, remember, these tires are hot. Bobby Rahal had cold tires when he went back out. Let's see if it does spell a difference.
See if it makes a difference with the hot tires as opposed to Rahal not being able to do that. But we'll see Danny Sullivan make it out. We'll see how he comes out in relationship to Bobby Rahal as to who is going to be the leader of this race now.
Nobody puts on brand new tires. They've had these tires on at other times this weekend. They've experimented for the race, but you just never know. There are so many conditions. As the saying goes, you put on the summer tires, you hope to be their best. They hope that's their last pit stop. Something might have gone away.
Well, I don't know. It seems that with the new radial tires, they're so successful at Pocono. First time they used them on high-speed over, but a lot of teams have gone to what we call sticker tires, the tires that have not been on the racetrack before. And you did notice in the first stop, I'm pretty sure you can hear the second stop. Some stickers on the front. I didn't look close enough to see that they did move in the rear, but sticker tires are a little bit better with the control they have within the radial design. You don't have the tire sizes changing very much, so you can go ahead and run sticker tires.
There is Sullivan, and there is Rahal in the background. Maybe a couple of seconds.
It's true. It's going to be interesting to see when we get our report as far as the in and out of the pits as to who really did do the best job. Marino, a Looks like he's come to a stop here at one of the stations. You can see the Horton safety team out to check and see if there's anything they can assist him with. And it's too bad for the Gallus racing team. Now their second car appears to be out of the race.
A little earlier, we showed you the silent machine of Rick Mears. And Rick Mears has made his way back to the pit area, and right now he's willing to talk about it to Gary.
Let's talk to Rick and see exactly what the problem was.
Well, I don't know exactly. Something with the motor. I'm not sure what it was. It lost power here going into the first turn, so we just had to pull it off and park it. But Chevrolet was running good up to that point.
You gave up some in qualifying as far as your starting position, but I know you're very high on this new power plant.
Very much so. It's really been, you know, the power it's got and the power band that it has and everything is great. And things just really felt super out there all day today, you know, until we had the problem. But, you know, that's just some of the teething we got to go through to be able to try to get an advantage on everybody.
What power plant at Montreal?
I believe we're going to have the Chevrolet again.
Back to the Chevy again.
Something we've had a lot of fun with in years past is the question of the week on our ESPN broadcast, and we took a bit of a different approach this week. Instead of talking to the drivers, we talked to the people who really work hard, the mechanics. Of all the tools in your toolbox, which one best describes Johnny Rutherford?
I think, Larry, that probably one of my hammers does, because especially on the ovals, if he feels real comfortable and we get our Vermont American car right on the ovals, he gasses it just as if you came down on the throttle with a hammer.
Well, for me, I think it's the stopwatch, because we always want to see that we're the fastest.
My driver, Roberto Moreno, I would have to say a monkey wrench would best describe him.
Well, I've got what they call an Indy hammer, which is a big copper mallet that sometimes talking to that mallet I seem to get more sense out of it than I do out of Atomic.
I would say a pair of vernier calipers. You know, he's very delicate to deal with, but also very precise. He's a good driver.
I'd have to say the inspection mirror.
The inspection bearing, that's a new one for me.
Well, you know, when you're involved with the Hollywood people, you've got to make sure you're looking right, and that's got to be the most essential tool, isn't it?
Well, we saw a little variety in times that the cars actually paused. Then you see Sullivan, the number 3 car of Bobby Rahal, Roberto Guerrero, the 2 car, and Roberto Moreno, the 9 car. You can see the various differences in the actual time that the crew took to service the machine, the driver time, the time entering and exiting the pits. Danny Sullivan once again getting out in under 11 seconds. A grand total of 28 seconds has propelled him back to the lead. And now we have 2 people who are ranked not only in the top 25, but in the top 2, and Sullivan, Rahal.
It doesn't look as though the tire warmers paid off for Danny Sullivan. He came out of the pits with an advantage, and Bobby Rahal with his advantage in track knowledge here at Mid-Ohio is right in again. It still looks as though Danny might have enough to be able to hold him off, but it looks like we're going to have a really good race right to the end with only 22 laps to go.
Laps is close, but you don't see the Jeep Mechanics poncho. It's close again. Brings to mind an interesting statistic. Among Jeep mechanics, starting today's race, only 12 of the Chief mechanics, 12 of the Chiefs who are on cars here, have previous wins, and very few of them have wins totaling more than 10, because it's so difficult for them to do it. And those who have exceeded that total are certainly among the very best, not only in this country, but in the world.
Well, it's tough to come up with a good crew chief, just like it is to come up with a good to be able to get the combination of that is something that you can do. See that they've kind of lost their straightaway speed a little bit that time by at least the radar gun showed that they've been up into the 60s. That time I think it was 159. So really interesting to see if they're kind of backing up a little bit as far as Sullivan's concerned, but it looks as though Rahal there in his Bud car is just going for it right now as hard as he can.
Reasonably fresh loads of fuel. And by the way, A.J. Watson is here this weekend. He fielded a car that started this race for Dominic Dobson. He still leads all of the active crew chiefs, at least those who had cars in this race, with 27 wins. Of course, many of those coming about 10, 15 years ago. A.J. is still on the podium. Peter Parrott, who crew chief Rick Mears' car for today's race, has 17. He's the guy turning wrenches for Roberto Guerrero.
That's another thing we've noticed notice that Roberto's kind of dropped out of the screen right now. He's still out there on the track, but he's dropped back almost 7 seconds behind the leader. So apparently through the pit stops and the changes that they made, he's not as competitive as he was right before the pit stop.
64 laps. Right now must be driving as hard as he possibly can because he sees Sullivan and Rahal continuing to snake around this 2.4-mile course and seemingly not giving Roberto an opportunity to catch up. Now we're going to zoom back and show you the interval. There you see Roberto. He's catch these guys. He needs them. He's still trying to make a good pass. So he's got to go now, Punter. He's got to catch them within the next 10 laps.
Well, I would say so. He has to. The only thing that might help him is if the two leaders get battling in traffic and get slowly down, and then Roberto can go ahead and be running by himself. He may be able to gain some ground there. But right now, since you know they're holding that interval pretty close.
Well, we've been able to keep pretty close track on the pit stop intervals. I'd like to thank his people on the master stats, and I'd also like to thank Jan Beekes, who is active this year running in the Pro Monster Series out on the West Coast. In fact, Jan and Mark Wallenchuk, don't worry, it's not spelled anyway like that, as I've said on Speedway before. We're having a private duel for the championship, and as a matter of fact, they are too involved with the Budweiser people, so they're spreading the Bud word out there. Here's Alonso Jr. Now, this is a pit stop that would have been scheduled because he had to come in prematurely. Remember, he was involved in that shunt. It was lap 36. In the league this year, but he's not leading the points.
What do we got?
Show the Mormons coming out of the yeah. Amish, yeah. Can we do that? This would probably be our last chance. Well, what I'm saying, you could dissolve to the noise breaking the peacefulness of the Amish. Oh, you're right. We do need to lead to it. You're right. Yeah, you're right. I would like to show that. That is a neat piece. Okay, good. Well, Rahal has been working on this same scenario here for about the last 40 laps, and nothing's happened. It's not working. Sullivan cannot lose him. He cannot get away, but Rahal cannot get up with enough speed and momentum to get by.
Yeah, he really can't. It looks like maybe he's dropped back here just a little bit. Maybe on the side, Danny up to the or maybe he's not going as quick as Bobby feels he can, or maybe just going to wait, catch him a little bit in traffic, but he's giving just a little more room now, not pressing it quite as hard.
The 60-lap average, by the way, was 108 miles an hour. Remember, the pole speed of Mario Andretti was 113, so that's considering it. There are two pit stops that are also squeezed in there. Car number 66 with our friend Derek Daly behind the wheel hit some of the equipment of Randy Lewis's 36 car in the pit area, and there was some thought at one point stop and go quickly, but we have not seen that transpire. Just a brief rundown of the cars that are still out there running competitively. We've seen a number of times. Roberto Guerrero was third. Kevin Kogan, we haven't seen turning in a fine performance. There's Derek talking about, that's not 36, that's Jacques Villeneuve. And Villeneuve also has had a good day, although he has dropped out of the top 10 standings. Maybe that's temporary because of a pit stop. Tom Sneva in 7th position. Derek in 8th. Johnny Rutherford in 9th. And the number 22 car,
Jacques Villeneuve. Very going into the hard right-hander. Briefly about a subject that came up during the Pocono race. And we noted that the top-off valve was lying in Rick Mears' pits, and apparently they were considering putting it on. They found out that the rule forbid that. Well, there have been a number of conversations about that, and the word that we get this week is that if we have erred in this case, it is the language of the rule, and those words are going to be changed. It should say that in the interpretation of a cart official, if he deems it malfunctioning, then a change can be considered. But we went by the letter. We stand by our story.
We have Johnny Rutherford, one of the Santa race will be declared winner, we might say, just to be up there next week, see him. But we will have to leave. I won't get a chance to try and pass it.
As we, I almost missed that, but now I understand. Well, as we watch the people who are the monsters of horsepower run here in Mid-Ohio, let's turn our thoughts and our attention to the Amish people in this country and a different kind of horsepower. As you can see, all shots that so in the Mid-Ohio race car course. Things are that way before the INDYCARs come. Same way in the INDYCARs, everything goes back to normal when we do. As Sullivan and Rahal continue their parade-like quest, report on the radio that Tom Sneva, who has been able to stay in the top 10 all day on this road course, has lost the wheel.
Pickup problem. It's probably a good thing he didn't
in this race, so there are 12 laps remaining. Roberto Guerrero is going to be able to gender up enough horsepower to catch this duo. Whenever you come to Ohio, and the presence of the spirit of Jim Trump, and just to let you know, I wanted to assure you that not been lost to the competitors here this weekend.
We cannot go through the weekend without realizing the loss of Jim.
Oh yeah, you know, it's not the same. Never will be. We miss him a great deal. His spirit's with us, but you know, he had such a great personality and had such a strong presence that we miss that. No question about it.
Guerrero is third. Kogan is fourth. Alonso Jr. one lap down is fifth. The Daily Garza turning in a fine performance, sixth. Tom Sneva was seventh. Lost to wheel incident. Daly 8th. The number 21 car of Johnny Rutherford, the winner of one of this year's 500s, is 9th. And 22, Dick Simon,
The True Sports team has got a good run going here. It's not quite enough to overhaul.
was the Indianapolis 500, so he had an awful nice baptism into victory lane. He's won twice this year before the career wins.
Almost 7 seconds for him to exit the pit, so the total time difference was enough to make that almost 6 seconds difference. Danny Sullivan stays in the lead and make it a little harder for Robert. Now he's got a really quick hit done as hard as he can to get by.
And Rahaal's making his move. Sullivan is slowed. Sullivan, the leader, has dropped out of this race. Rahal looked like he was getting ready to do it. Pancho and Danny Sullivan has got problems.
He slowed down coming out of the field. Now it looks like he's back up to speed. Could be experiencing some transmission trouble and either lost a gear or maybe was not able to get in gear when he wanted to. Now we've got Bobby Rahal as our new leader. You can see he's really opened up on Danny Sullivan, who obviously has something wrong with his car.
Sullivan is not up to speed yet. It remains to be seen whether or not he'll stay out the remaining 10 laps or not. If it continues to decline and is the speed, it's unlikely that Danny will stay out. There goes Bobby Rahal putting a lap on Desiree Wilson. Here in IndyCars. There is Danny Sullivan. Roberto Guerrero is moving up on Danny, and it looks like Roberto.
I'm not sure exactly what Danny's problem is. He may go ahead and make an entry into the pits, which he's doing right now. Maybe he feels he can get fourth place Kevin Kogan, but right now he's elected to come into the pits and get whatever his problem is.
Only for this race, but for the season extending. Now, the first four cars. Sullivan got fuel.
Looks as though maybe they've got a fuel problem. They came in just for fuel. Get back up to the same pace that rolls out the race. Maybe he's got a fuel pickup problem that has only shown up here late in the race.
Amazing. In some respects, it was amazing there was enough fuel left in the tank in the pits to give him some.
Well, if it's a pickup problem, no, it's not that unusual. Drive the car back and forth and get the fuel pickup working again, only on certain corners, depending on how the pickups malfunction as to whether or not you're able to pick up go to your next scheduled pit stop or to the end of the race, which should have been for Danny Sullivan.
Very professional job. Well, Gary Lee is down in the pits. He's been observing and listening to everything that's going on. How about it, Gary?
Well, I would describe the Penske crew as meticulous. Right now, there is a bit of confusion because they're not really sure what the problem with Danny is. Danny himself on the radio said, I thought I had a tire going down, so I backed out of the throttle. Then he thought, well, perhaps he was low on fuel as he came by, so he tried to do it anyway. They topped off the fuel. The crew, in fact, thought there might be a spark plug problem. They said, well, you've got more fuel, the tire's okay, go back out and try it again. So right now, he's just cruising around, trying to determine what the problem is.
There is Sullivan cruising better than 170 miles an hour at the end of the backstretch and averaging 113 miles per hour. There is the leader, Bobby Rahal, and Roberto Guerrero has moved up to second. The question becomes, is Roberto within striking distance of Rahal? And Pancho, let's make an assumption, or is it safe to assume that these two guys can go the distance? And look how close Guerrero is.
Well, you can see, and that came about with the 3 cars you can see in the background there. In fact, we just had one of them experience a problem going down into turn 1. I think it was Jose Legarza had something let go of the rear wing, and he got into the dirt embankment right underneath the bridge there.
It's at this point not possible to tell exactly who it is, but we have had a very severe crash there. You can see it's at the end of the front stretch, going into the first left-hander, hitting the outside guardrail, the car coming apart in a number of pieces, the guardrail, which was running right underneath the tower, or make that the bridge, and it also backed up to a dirt embankment. And so that car and driver crashing into that area, and still at this moment it's not really possible to tell exactly who it is.
Maybe we can tell here in the replay, Larry. We're looking back at the lapped cars that they had just gone by, and I know there were, there were 3 cars that had held Bobby Rahal up that let Guerrero get up. It's still hard to tell. You can see the car got off the track, into the guardrail, and up into the embankment that holds the corner of the bridge up.
It is absolutely impossible to speculate who that is, because all the bodywork has come away, and it happened at a very unusual place also, Pancho. Something broke on that race car.
Well, it looked to me as if something definitely went wrong. Looking at the lap cars that was on the screen, it looked as though possibly a rear wing or something had come loose, and it's hard to make that prediction unless you actually saw the footage. But if there's something that could have happened, if the rear wing would have come off, and there you can see that is the 55 car, the car of Jose Legarza. That would cause that to happen. A rear wing coming off would cause the car to go completely out of control, because you lose all the rear downforce essentially, because it really changes the aerodynamics in the car. You can see that the Horton safety crew was there right away as soon as the car had come to a stop, and there they are now working, trying to extricate Jose from the car.
Jose Legarza from Mexico City, a young driver who was on that continual learning curve. He's had some pretty good races this year, but today ends up there, you see, in the debris just outside of turn number 1 here at Mid-Ohio. We'll be back after this. We greet our viewers from the stock car race down at Darlington. Bobby Rahal is leading this race, and seemingly in what's this?
Randy Lewis.
Who had a flat? Okay, they're playing back the Busch 500 from Bristol. Okay. Make this note clear. I can't deal with that right now. All right.
We have the replay of that where we're just going back into it and we're showing those cars in the background.
How many laps are in, John?
80. A finisher under the yellow, probably.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I understand. It's coming on the cart radio.
is conscious. That is, you can reconfirm that. Are we coming back, or are we greeting our stock car viewers? Now you're changing this again. Are we greeting our stock car viewers? You just said from Darlington. You got to tell me what we're doing. Thank you. Okay. Let me interrupt you. Are they at Darlington, or are they watching the Bristol race? Thank you. Thank you. This is a scene just off of turn number 1 at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Complex, and that tire and wheel assembly sitting there is off of Jose Garza's car. We are very late in the race. You can see there's a great deal of debris. Jose Garza has been involved in a major crash, but the good news is, even though Jose is still trapped in the wreckage, is that he is awake, and the initial report, almost unbelievably, is that he is alert. And that is off the cart radios, and that is just incredible news and incredibly good news. Pancho?
Well, apparently made some contact with Randy Lewis and got off the course. You can see the black tire marks. He went off in, hits the guardrail and also the embankment that holds the bridge up there, or the ramp to the bridge. Luckily goes underneath the bridge and ends up back out on the edge of the track, and it appears that the car is either laying on its side or almost laying completely upside down. Very lucky for Jose Lee if what they say is true, and that he is, you know, conscious, even though he is still trapped in the car, as long as he's there and able to tell the rescue workers, the Horton safety team, how to help get him out of the car.
Pancho, we are now completing 82 laps. You see the field rumbling down behind him. This race will only go 84. Looks like it will end under yellow. The leader of the race is Bobby Rahal. Bobby Rahal inherited that lead when Danny Sullivan had led Bobby for about 60 laps and just wouldn't let him pass. Had something wrong with the car. We were speculating fuel pickup. That was confirmed a little later in the pit area. Sullivan got back out on the racetrack, but Roberto Guerrero moved up to second, and unfortunately for Roberto, this race, as we indicated, likely will end under yellow because he was moving up on Bobby Rahal just as this elongated yellow was displayed. Now we will return you to the programming. Those of you watching the stock car race in Darlington, repeating once again, Jose Garza is conscious and out of the car. This is the scene here at Mid-Ohio, just outside of turn number 1. You can see the remains of Jose Garza's car, and unbelievably, the outstanding news is that Jose Garza is conscious. He has been extricated from the car. He has been picked up by the Horton medical safety people, and he assisted them in getting him out of that machine. And just look at that wreckage and how well that speaks for the construction of these race cars.
It is amazing that he, you know, didn't get knocked out, being able to be upside down like he was, which it appeared they had to right the car in order to get him out. But it was a very, very nasty accident. It looks to me as if all 4 corners have been tore off the car. It looks there as maybe the left rear is the only one that is actually left partially connected. But definitely a major accident.
Bobby Rahal, who trailed Danny Sullivan for so very many laps, inherited the lead when Bobby had his on-track problem. Here's another look at the replay, just the end of that crash, Pancho.
Yeah, it looks as though that they made contact apparently with one other car, maybe Randy Lewis, who they were racing, going by, and got into the Armco right there that protects the entrance to the bridge there that the cars run under, and he hit the dirt embankment after the Armco and then went on underneath the bridge. Luckily, he didn't get hung up in the bridge.
But repeating once again, just look at that wreckage. Hard to believe that a man escaped that. And Jose Garza, again, was conscious, we were told on the cart radio, and he has been taken from that scene. By the way, the white flag has now been displayed while all this has been going on. while you were away in commercial, obviously the cars were motoring around very slowly, giving everybody a chance to go to the aid of Jose Lee. The white flag has come out, meaning 83 laps are down, and this race is going to end under yellow. Bobby Rahal will be the winner. Knowing Bobby as I know him, this is not the way he wants to win a race. He probably would have liked to duel with Roberto Guerrero, but the points are so very important to Bobby too. You see the victory rate beginning. He is here in front of his home state and hometown fans. Understand he just built a new home on the golf course just adjacent to Murrayfield, Jack Nicklaus's complex, of course. Jack, a graduate of the Ohio State University. Roberto Guerrero will finish in second position. Danny Sullivan recovers in third position, and any fuel pickup problem that he was having, this certainly helps it out a great deal. And Kevin Cogan turns in just a stellar performance. He stayed on the lead lap all day. He never got up among the leaders, but Cogan will finish in fourth position, and Al Unser Jr. will be fifth. Guess who's sixth? Here it comes, the field snaking around. Almost hard to believe that this nearly silent procession is the field coming down for the last lap. Now, hopefully all the competitors' radios are working. The word has moved up and down the pit line that Jose Lee is conscious and out of the car, and they probably all know. Checkered flag coming up right here. There it is, you see it. Bobby Rahal taking the checkered flag, winning this year's Radar Escort Warning 200 here at Mid-Ohio.
Well, it looked as though we were going to have a real exciting duel there towards the end with Guerrero and Rahal, but just didn't turn out to be that way, and that's a well-deserved win, though, for Bobby Rahal. There you see Debbie giving one of the crew members a hug and a kiss, and the whole True Sport crew very excited. There's Bobby waving to the fans.
So the spirit of Jim Truman lives on. There's a little bit of lettering just at the very top of the front fuselage. It says JRT. That's for Jim Truman. Yes. Jeez, that is unbelievable. Jeez. He broke that, didn't he? He broke that, didn't he?
Yeah, you never know.
No, what I mean is after he crashed, he broke it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yes. Top 10 billboards of the race. Will we have time for a comment from Pancho after the top 10? All right. Okay. 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 Does that make him the winningest driver this year, Pancho? I think it does, doesn't it?
I don't know. Where else? Indy, here, Toronto, didn't he?
Toronto, yeah.
3.
Nobody else has got 3.
Yeah, you'd have to find. There we go. That's the one you want.
Yeah. Yeah, he's.
Yeah.
Well, it's a subdued victory lane because of the incident involving Jose Lee Garza, but again, repeating the good news is that he is okay. The injuries are not major. And Rahal breaks from a pack of 4 people who had 2 victories apiece. The Winner's Circle billboard is being brought to you by Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. Well, Bobby Rahal is taking his time getting out of the car down there in the pit area. We thought that we were ready to go with him, but obviously not quite. So Goodyear gets a little bit of extra time here. Talking about Goodyear, the Goodyear hat goes on, and Gary Lee is right there. Kiss for some of the other people on the team, and Gary Lee is ready to go with Bobby Rahal.
Well, that kiss first came from his wife, Debbie, then from Barbara Truman, the widow of Jim Truman. And obviously, Bobby, this is not the way you like to win a race.
Well, not under yellow, no. I hope, I don't know, looked like either Jose Lee or Desiree. I hope he's all right. Didn't look very good, but it was an awfully hard race.
You had a great battle with Danny, and then Danny had some type of mechanical woe and made a pit stop. Could you catch Danny, or was it just a matter of waiting till late in the race?
Well, I was trying to pressure him into a mistake a couple times. I made a run at him going down the end of the back straight, and he moved over on me and cut me off. So, but I figured, well, when it got down to the crunch, that's when I'd make my move. And I was starting to get a cramp, and I'm sore and I'm hot and tired, but I feel great.
Obviously under the yellow, but it still pays the same. And let's get wife Debbie in here. Debbie, introduce us on national television to the newest member of the Rahal family.
This is our daughter, Michaela. What do you think?
A kiss from daughter and a kiss from Debbie. And turn her around so all the viewers around the country can see her. There you are. Introduce us to your daughter.
This is Michaela. Hey? Huh? What do you think?
I'm sure this will be repeated many years during her life as she starts to pucker up to cry. Congratulations, Bob.
Bobby Rahal becomes the only driver to win 3 races in the 1986 INDYCAR PPG Series. Bobby Rahal wins here at Mid-Ohio, his home race course. 3 other drivers have 2 wins, but only Bobby has 3. Here's the top 10. Rahal, Guerrero, as we mentioned. Danny Sullivan holds on for 3rd. Kevin Cogan, a great performance today, is 4th. And Al Unser Jr., despite spinning once, is in 5th position on the final unofficial results here. 6 through 10, Derek Daly, Raul Boisel, Johnny Rutherford, Ian Ashley moving up to the top 10, and Michael Andretti. Pancho, your thoughts?
Well, I thought it was, an excellent race, much better race than a lot of people had predicted, in the fact that there was a lot of wheel-to-wheel racing in some parts, but a lot of anticipation that there were going to be some lead changes, even though there weren't quite as many as we had hoped.
Bobby Rahal, the winner, of course. There were 10 leaders of this race. The margin of victory was just 0.8 seconds. The time of the race was 1 hour and 56 minutes, and the man who led the most laps was Danny Sullivan. Well, Sullivan and Rahal put on a good battle for quite some time, but it just wasn't to be at the end. We had this incident here that involved Jose Lee Garza, but all turned out well, apparently. Today's INDYCAR PPG race has been brought to you by the Pennzoil Motor Oil Company. Pennzoil Motor Oil, quality, protection, ask for it. And by Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. And by Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. Don't forget about this Thursday. Bob Jenkins and I will bring you up to date on the latest in the world of racing, including Bobby Rahal's win here, the condition of Jose Lee Garza, and a confusing weekend down in the south that we've been ducking in and out of all afternoon. So for Gary Lee and Pancho Carter, this is Larry Newber from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, bidding you a very pleasant good afternoon. Have a very happy Labor Day.